Hi, good morning. Welcome to the Friday Night Project. I know it's morning, but Friday night, but it's Friday night in the mornings too. So I'm Charles, and this is my co-host Natasha. Oh, I haven't said our secret superhero name, Charles, aka Captain Courageous, and my co-host Natasha Medusa. And
Medusa.
here we have our wonderful special guest again with us for the part two of the show, Nick Faiz, who is the president of the Malaysian Craft Council. Last show, we had some incredible talk about the situation, the current pandemic situation in Malaysia, and how this has financially affected artisans, craftsmen in Malaysia. And there's a lot to talk about. And it's not just confined to just aspects of finances or money, but it's really about how this also affects the value of what Malaysia Craft Council is all about. And that's a very interesting discussion. And you're all welcome to tune in and listen to this. Now, what is the Friday Night Project? That's the $1 million question, isn't it? Now, so the Friday Night Project. Now, Friday Night Project really started when me and Medusa, actually were involved in teaching this one subject at Taylor's University. This subject is called Creative Thinking Skills. So we all started there. So now we were lecturers, and every semester we did some really unorthodox things. We didn't conform to conventional kind of pedagogy or teaching and learning styles. We were not conventional at all. We decided to throw that out the window and decided to just kick back, chill, play, brainstorm in the most unusual ways, even with the students. But me and Medusa, we often spend a lot of time having these discussions as well, before classes and after classes. And during those times, we were going really crazy with ideas. Um, it just always reminds me of how Brian Eno, David Bowie used to work together on projects before, and being very oblique about its process. So what we did was to remove the typical constructs of learning and critical thinking by injecting a lot of humor. Oh yeah, we laughed a lot. We used music, performances, tons of role playing, gamification. We changed the rules, removing rules, non-prescription, prescription, things like that. Giving students a lot of space to iterate, prototype, makes a lot of mistakes with teams, as teams, and we're all somehow being directed to be more like-minded, and we just, as far as we just relax with each other. So therefore the ideas just flow, they were just flowing. So we encouraged all this. We encouraged lots of laughter and prioritize outdoor learning experiences. And, like, gosh, Medusa brought them to karaoke places where, they sang their hearts out. Oh my gosh, outdoor rock climbing, you name it. Island trips. We actually went on an island. We played survival games there. So FNP is an extension of all this. Explorative days, it's kind of we extrapolate from the normal ways of trying to make sense of things, but we just discuss. It's not a philosophical thing either, it's just a space to be who you want to be, set by your own rules, basically, and defined by your own authenticity. And that's basically what me and Medusa are aiming for. So each week we peel the topics across the board, often with special guests. Special guests can invite anyone who's really pushing that envelope, and really one who really intend to explore topics openly, and to help deepen insight, to provoke ideas as well, to be as provocative as possible. Yeah. And the intention is to disrupt rather than to corrupt mainstream thought, and to encourage students and educators to be more critical learners. Yeah. So that's basically what it is. This is basically our cranial gift to students and educators in arts and crafts and design. So basically, this is what the Friday Night Project is. It's a space, it's an oasis. It's an oasis of exploring our ideas together with special guests, and for also an oasis for guests to explore their ideas and their causes with us. And in this way, we communicate to whoever needs to hear this. And of course, it will be on YouTube. So remember to subscribe. Okay, there you go. That's a little description of the Fine Night Project. Um, thank you, Nick, for putting up with that. Oh, I hope I explained it right, but we'll try to give a much better, concise summary each show. Okay, on to you, Nick. So on to you, Natasha.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charles. Hi, hello, Nick. Selamat pagi semua.
Hello.
Yes.
Selamat pagi.
So,
Morning, Nick.
so
Welcome back.
last week, thanks. Last week we had a really good chat. We were discussing about the role of MCC, and we also wanted to send out a dire message that would be what are the financial supports that were given out to the community and the local arts and craft community, uh, and at the same time, where could people find information and resources on whatever support and financial aid available. So we wrapped that up in the first part, and I think it was a very good eye opener to a lot of people. Yeah. So welcome back, Nick. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think, yeah, and then this time around, Nick, maybe you would like to explore a little bit more about your role, your personal role as an artisan, because you are part of that local fabric of arts and culture. You come from a third generation of batik producer. Your grandfather was a batik maker. You come
Correct.
from a very important geographical location of batik production, which is Kota Baru, yeah. Uh, and in fact, you are creative director of a batik textile production company called Bahara. And what is fascinating is that you are right smack in Kampung Penambang, which has a
Yes.
lot of fantastic history about it. And so when you know the recent MCO rolled out, yeah, the movement controlled order
Mm,
was ruled out, you were able to see firsthand the impact on the local community. You literally are out there with them, shoulder to
Yes.
shoulder. And I think it's important that you share with us a couple of things. So let's start, Nick, with your life as an artisan and being part of the community.
Okay. Well, if I want to, first and foremost, thank you very much for inviting me again. And if I like to share about the history of myself, will take like one whole day. But maybe when you ask me about how's the life of an artisan, I can wrap it up by saying that um, the normal artisan, or I would say like the craft makers in everywhere in the world, I would say, they are living a little bit secluded in their own world, sometimes emotionally, not only physically. Because not to say that, of course, majority are a little bit in the suburban area, but sometimes even though when we are somehow close to the city or something, we try to seclude ourselves to be in a situation where we want to be. Yeah. So that's number one. And then number two is we're dealing with something more intangible, emotion, the art itself, the nature. So that's what normally artisans do. And then the other one is probably I can say we artisan loves to balance their life. Of course, they are professionals in what they are doing, but at the same time, they don't want to be seen as too professional in their field and neglecting about their personal life, family, their hobby, and a lot of other things. Yeah, that's what I can briefly say about an
fascinating.
artist. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why I want to highlight this area for this particular segment is that um, a lot of people underestimate, or maybe they just don't have a clear idea on how the local arts and craft scene is like. So for example, um, you mentioned about the the way they operate and so forth, but when the recent moratorium came out, right? A
Oh
lot
yeah.
of people didn't understand how this segment of the population was so out of it, kan? But rather than judge, and rather than ask, hey, why aren't they part of it? Why have they not, you know, uh, been registered, or why are most of them not listed under LHDN, kan, Lembaga Hasil Dalam Negeri. I
Yeah.
think it's much more important, even respectful, that we also understand, the
Yeah.
tradition that they come from, kan. And
Yeah, I see.
also, kan,
Yeah.
satu lagi I feel that
Yeah.
we are looking at a segment of the population that their sense of pride and their gift to the community is through their artistry. Maybe not through qualifications like degrees and masters and
Yeah.
PhDs. And I think, we need to also understand. And I think for me, as a creative arts lecturer together with Captain Courageous, um, I think the local arts and craftsmen, they are actually national treasures. So
Oh yeah.
when the recent moratorium by the government
Absolutely.
came out, it seems to be quite controversial. Yeah, we're seeing a situation where many have job with no security, and they won't. It was very difficult for them to get any kind of support because they're undocumented. But let's put that aside because we discussed it last week, and there are resources that can fill these gaps. Um, but I think what is important is that what we've learned so far from this episode is that local craftsmen have served businesses very, very well in the past. But the sad thing is, when something like this happens, it makes them very, very vulnerable to
Yeah.
both economical and environmental shocks, right? So we need to really have a bigger conversation. There need to be more pressure, and I think on how we can redesign what we call social safety nets, so that rather than question why they are in the lower income bracket, we should actually put them in a separate bracket where we protect them even more. Yeah. And I think another thing we need to also realize, it doesn't really do long-term good for them if we just hand out money.
Yeah.
I think we need to do something more long-term. There need to be a better mechanism, a better structure to protect and preserve what they do. Yeah. Could you share with us, Nick, how the scenario looks like for the local artists and craftsmen there in Kota Baru?
Okay. I'd like to highlight a bit about the moratorium that you were mentioning, Natasha. Um,
Sure.
yes, it doesn't affect any of, I would say, majority of our artisans unless they are involved directly with the business, because they don't hold credit card. At least I will say in Kelantan or in the Jalan Pantai Cahaya Bulan that I'm in, majority are not holding credit card, and they don't have bank loans. They don't like to be
I know.
parked under any of
Mm.
the systems of um, all those LHDN and everything.
Yeah.
Of course, they don't even know how to
Mm.
to submit income tax or something. This is the people that not only in Malaysia, I will say this happens throughout the world, even in USA, where
Mm.
the creative people, they don't like to be controlled or systemized. Yeah, they like to be free. Like, when I was talking
Mm.
before, when they like to be a little bit secluded emotionally or physically, and they like to deal
Interesting.
with something that they want to deal with. But of course, it doesn't create, it doesn't allow excuses for them to be secluded in that part. And yes, there are certain parameters for us to put this group of people under protection. Sometimes they don't want to be protected, but they have to be protected, or I don't know. This again, it comes in a few different levels. But concerning the situation currently about the MCO and COVID-19, this pandemic has never been perceived by many people. yes, we have a lot of other diseases before viruses came over and attacked our country. But I will say, even from my when I spoke to a few, including my uncles and many other craft producers or artisans, they have never experienced this. Not being able to perform Friday prayers, even though they are in their 70s, they have never experienced this. Yeah, so this is certainly something that is so huge for us to talk about. But then hopefully it's controllable. It's something there's something we can do, an approach for us to tackle all this issue. But I will say they are hit very badly when they are asked to stay home, because they are going out to get money or to find job wages for them to to use it for their own life, weekly lifestyle, and for the family. So when this thing happened, it hit them very badly as well. And then the government has announced about the
stimulus package.
The stimulus package for all these people, but they are uncontactable because they're not in the system. So again, this is the thing that they see as positivity, or there's actually benefits for them to be in the system. Yeah, because this has never done before, this has never happened before, and now they see it. So again, about these people, they're more about physically seeing it rather than thinking about it. Yeah, because they think about what they want to think about. So when this thing happened, yes, then they realize this is actually the reason why we need to be in the system. Yeah. So there are a lot of loopholes for them to, for us, especially MCC and a lot of other agencies and any other societies to address about, and then try to give education about what should happen in this modern market.
Yeah, I was seeing a meme the other day, and it was very ironic and true at the same time, where they were making fun of how, how athletes are paid extremely generously, and compared to scientists. But when we are faced with a pandemic like this, where are the footballers? Where are the basketball players? Where are these so-called overpaid people, if I might say so, in contrast to those who are really, really helping to tackle the core issue of the pandemic. We're talking about the medical officers, we're talking about scientists and so forth.
The frontliners,
Exactly, the frontliners. And then you realize who are the real frontliners. But at the same time, I think this whole COVID episode has made us re-examine certain social structures. It's as if, we have always known that the local arts, artisans and craftsmen have been somewhat marginalized or sidelined. It's always been, a conversation, but at the back of people's minds. Do you think, Nick, in your personal opinion, that perhaps this whole episode has been like a blessing to make people more aware of how important this segment is in our society?
Oh yeah, I always like to see it this way, that the universe is pressing the reset button when this thing happens. I will say everyone is experiencing it and got hit with it, even though they are rich or they are poor. And a lot of things has happened in the past few days, and it's very shocking. Even though when we say that United States of America, the great country, is now actually on the top of the list of those got.
That's shocking, isn't it?
Very. Yeah. So for me, I don't know, this is too huge for me to say. But yes, one thing I can share about my perspective is that we have always been seeing life on the material perspective, if I may say that. Because Natasha, you were saying about the overpaid people, athletes and everything. Because
Yeah.
again, we look at the supply and demand. Who are actually supplying the payment to those people? Country. Because what they have brought into making the country famous or branding up the country. So again, when this thing happened with the pandemic, and we see the heroes are among the frontliners. So perhaps in the next few years or next few decades, they will be focused on. So this thing will always be happening like that when we are putting in price on everything that we do. But beautifully, the craft industry or art world is seen as something more beautiful than that. We don't see money as our immediate goal to get on. Maybe some, yes, especially for those who are doing it for the sake of making a living, or not to say that these artisans don't want to make a living, but again, for those who are very passionate enough about what they're doing, they see this on the perspective of passion. They make life beautiful. They make the world beautiful with their creation. And this is the thing that not every people has it. So yeah, I've been living in this world throughout my life, and I've also been exposed to some other worlds of business, even broadcasting and other things. I see this as too beautiful for us to change totally. But of course, adapting is another thing. So that's why I say it's too huge for me to say about this. But then, yes, we are striving together, making things better, and then addressing this thing in many different levels, so that we can see, okay, where do we go about? There are a lot of thin lines for us to get into, and either we are breaking it, or we are going through it, and we are, or we are containing it. So those are the things that we need to address on. Yeah.
Right.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So I don't
think,
know well, or
yeah.
like slapping on everyone's face, but I think for me, from my perspective, that's what's happening, and this is something that people have to see about the craft world. Yeah.
Yeah. This
It's
is what we call
really
the nudge, you know? Yeah. This is the invisible hand that comes in to kind of like
absolutely, yeah.
move things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, um, people don't see the point of, like, especially this artisan, they don't see the point of having too big house or having too big cars, because they will dilute, or get rid of their creative sense or crafts sense. For
Yeah.
example, like myself, I have been exposed and been dealing with a lot of other things. I never want to be living in a big mansion. I never want to be driving Ferrari or something, because I think the money will be well utilized when we use it for community. And that's, for example, because I see a bigger satisfaction in myself if I get to spend the money that I have, even though I don't have much now. But for the little that I have, is more towards helping out these people. It's more satisfying than driving a Ferrari. Yeah, that's how I see it. Yeah.
So I guess it kind of like reframes the understanding of wealth among the local arts and craftsmen, because for them it's about being modest and being humble, uh, making appreciating the gift that has they've been bestowed, you know,
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
from previous generation and whatnot. Whereas, I mean, to them it's not about being wealthy from a material perspective, and like you said, to them it might be uh, tampering with, what do you call it, like macam bad luck lah kan, macam tak baik lah, you know,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
live in excess. You know, you live within your means, and
Yeah.
then that's about it. But I think a lot of people see that as poverty or poor, and I think again it
Correct.
goes back to people's understanding on what is wealth, and you know, like in the urban area kan, it's all about how many cars you have and so forth. How many rooms do you have in your house? Uh,
Yeah.
so I think that's again another thing that people tend to underestimate. We see them very simple, tapi kita fikir oh dia orang ni macam not making enough money. Padahal for them
Yeah.
they're rich enough, you know.
Enough
Uh-uh.
already.
Yeah, they're so much happier than those who are earning a lot. Don't you think so, Marissa? They're so much happier. I mean, they don't envy people who are so wealthy, because
Oh no.
they have this whole this whole idea of wealth, it and this reset button that you mentioned today is in a way not just um, allowing us to be aware of who these people are. It's not just that. I think it's also getting us to understand how everybody sees wealth. It's really unfortunate if there's a group out there, or if I mean, scary to say, if the educated community decided to still define wealth by physical things
Right.
and cash and money and profit, because it's actually beyond profit. I mean, this whole situation that's happening with this group of people is actually a lesson for all. If they are wise enough to see it, then they should be able to see it. And you mentioned about this the how and Mudisa, you mentioned about sports people, people who are who are highly paid, the pro league people, those guys, now. And what interesting that you mentioned that if only they were in the front lines, if they actually give back to the community, then they are leading by example. And I've not seen any major headlines about that yet, but I think the real heroes are the ones who are unsung. We don't talk about them. These are the ones we take for granted all the time. They are the ones in the hospitals. They are always there, and they're always on alert. I mean, the law enforcement, the army, the doctors, the nurses, the cleaners, and all these people are the real heroes at the moment. But we need those others, the ones who are highly paid, the ones who are privileged, to step up, if they can just also continue to give back to the community, and it will be a leadership by example. And I think you made a very, very good point there. It's a very, very good point. It's a demonstration of some kind of solidarity of understanding. I believe so. It's that needs to happen. And I guess that's why we exist. That's why we are having this discussion. So I hope that we can pass the word, And what you have, your statement, Nick Faiz, I think is very, very crucial, very important, and needs to be told. Yeah, but I think you're definitely heading towards the right direction. So we've got another 6 more minutes left in our show. The conversation is getting really heated up. It's getting more interesting, but we're going to save a lot of this for the next show. And you are definitely invited again.
Thank you.
You're always going to be invited.
To see my face all the time.
Yeah, you can use this the Friday Night Project as your platform to communicate your cause. No problem. So any last things to say before we wrap up, Medusa?
Yes. Very briefly, Nick. So here at the Friday Night Project, we are believers in the arts being very critical in education. How can we modernize local arts and craft without compromising on its authenticity and traditional values?
Okay. Wow. Okay. That is actually the practice I've been doing throughout my life. Since I was a child, I didn't share much about the history of my life before, but since I was a child, like a real children, I was already exposed to this batik industry. To be specific, because my both of my grandfathers from my mom and my dad's side, one is on batik and the other one is on silver. So I have seen quite a few areas of craft categories, and but I will say that I am mastered in batik. And when I see craft during that time, I see there's a need to change. So that is the reason why I came up with the branding Rus Gahara. I came up with the idea of contemporarizing our batik and creating a new identity, which we have yet to get in comparison to our neighboring countries' batik. So we have to have this thing, and for me, I get information from people, from industry, from books. So I think when we are doing this, Rus Gahara has successfully contemporarized our batik, and yes, it doesn't stop there. The journey continues. Always need to be upgrading and upgrading. But for a lot of other artisan group, we need to give education. Yeah, that's the most important thing for them to be exposed on. They have no privilege like what I do. In terms of tertiary education and getting exposed online and travel the world to just get something and composing something. So a lot of people in this category have no such privilege. So for me, that's just the determination that I have, and I think it's not all about you have the money or you are privileged on doing that because of your parents or something, but it's you need to have you need to ask what you need to have. So ask for it, and then it will happen. And then you have to figure out the ways on making it happen. The world is not cruel all the time in giving you what you need, and more importantly, giving you what you are supposed to have. Yeah. So for me, again, coming back to your question, education is very crucial. That is actually the reason why the platforms that I created through Malaysian Craft Council and before that through my business is educating. If it is not in a bigger group, it is those that we can actually access to. Yeah, but through MCC, we can get it into a bigger segment.
Awesome.
Very quickly. Very quickly. Sorry, maybe in a few seconds. What can teachers do to help? What can they start?
What can teachers?
Yeah, what can teachers do? How can they initiate this through their classroom?
Okay, come and speak to us through our platform, Facebook and many others. You can also try to contact me through my email or phone number. Again, the social media is the best platform. Speak to us. We have some ways of deliberating the information, but then we need a formula, probably the model that the teachers can actually help out to create. So as I was mentioning in the previous session, collaboration is ultimately the most important thing for us to do right now. And try to reach out to a different target segment, not only on the demand side, but also on the supply side. So come and speak to us. There is no one direction for us to do that right now, because again, the world is experiencing a real change. So I don't want to stress that word again and again, but that is actually
That's
it.
basically
so,
it, yeah.
But yeah, speak to us about this. We need to brainstorm and try to come up with something more valuable, something more impactful, and formulated well.
Okay, so that's all the time we have for today. Show is just about done. Thank you so much, Nick Faiz. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Faiz, President of the Malaysian Craft Council, and Medusa and myself, we want to wish you happy staying at home, stay safe, and be safe and be creative always.
2 more weeks left. Just 2 more weeks left.
Yeah, 2 more weeks left. 2 more weeks left to get really, really creative. So do subscribe and take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thank you, Nick. Bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.